In 2022, James Watt and BrewDog announced that he was giving away £100 million worth of shares to staff. Then the company proceeded to set up an employee benefit trust that's super weird, like 2 months later, and even less than a year later, the profit share schemes also announced at that time were scrapped. The question is, how many times can BrewDog promise to be an exceptional employer, promising exceptional value to employees, and then proceed to fail to deliver? How many times can that happen? This is part A of Supercooked Corporate Conspiracy All Killer No Filler. And feel free to pop back to our highlights reel if you need to catch up on this series or need more information about what is going on. But of course, I need to do some obligatory housekeeping. All parties mentioned have, of course, been contacted for right of reply. We've been met with, of course, contempt and or silence. And James Watt is so pathetically scared that he is sending in people to watch these videos who we are systematically blocking, of course. But the reality is, wouldn't I have a cease and desist if everything that I'm saying isn't true? Just saying. Last video, we spoke with Brian Simpson about the promises around the staff profit share schemes that have never materialized for staff in the rebranded staff profit share programs that were announced in May of 2022. In February 2023, James responded to employee complaints about those employee profit share schemes, and here's what he had to say.
I was saddened to see and hear so many upset voices when it came to the second payment not being what was expected. Firstly, I totally understand and share the disappointment from so many, and whilst it was difficult to listen to people's frustrations, at the cash value of the 50% profit share payments, the way the profit share scheme was calculated, and the final values not being signposted early enough was valid feedback from those of you who gave it. I am sorry we didn't do enough to make those of you aware that profitability wasn't what it was going to be as we expected or budgeted for.
James stated that he would hold wide-ranging consultations on the topic to rectify the situation and consider employees' voices. Then, a BrewDog employee updated employees. He stated that they're going to continue with the real living wage despite how difficult it is for the company to be able to do that, and that they are making the changes that the employees asked for when complaining about the employee profit share programs with a new system of reward called the Customer Champions, stating that while they had been proud to announce the blueprint less than a year earlier, that it was before the full energy crisis took hold and costs had spiraled. But here's the thing, the core catalyst for the energy crisis was already taking hold in April of 2022. That's around a month before the program was announced, and again I remind you at the same time that questions into how James had gotten information from former employees to accuse them of a conspiracy was raised. There were also several core developments in 2022 relating to this energy crisis, and BrewDog said nothing, did nothing, and changed nothing. It was only when employees complained that they said or did anything. It is hard to accept that people are the company's priority when they are consistently making promises and fail to be competent enough at business to either make the promises in an astute manner or change course when the business and economic environment sends clear signals that you will not be able to deliver. Bottom line, much of the same can be said for the retail shareholders, but we're going to get to that in later installments of this series. Today, let's go a little further on the other side of that announcement, the Employee Benefit Trust. So let's break all this down. Early May, BrewDog gets inquiries for right of reply regarding this story. Conspiracy weary BrewDog CEO files fraud lawsuit against woman he paid for information. BrewDog announces the blueprint, and here's some key core stats that you should enjoy from this.
Watt's total shareholding will reduce from 24.2% to 19.2%. He is transferring 3,727,201 shares to an employee benefit trust that will distribute 1.25% of the company evenly among all 750 salaried crew members every year for the next 4 years.
Alan Layton, the chairman of the BrewDog board, released quotes in support of this initiative, and the media ate it up without a single critical question. The BrewDog Employee Benefit Trust was incorporated on the 6th of July 2022, which is, yes, 2 months after the announcement. It was established to the best that we can comprehend as an unimproved CSOP. This terminology refers to any share option that does not benefit from HMRC tax advantageous treatment. Now let's be clear, BrewDog was already operating an EMI and a CSOP, which do include these tax advantageous situations from HMRC. I want to be clear, the way they set up the Employee Benefit Trust is not illegal. They are fully within their rights to do this, and unlike conditions around tax advantageous schemes, there's no need for approval or communication with the HMRC. And this means, therefore, that BrewDog had 3 tiers of employee remuneration and benefits, and one of these tiers is not tax advantaged, and they are fully in control of the employee shares. None of this is illegal. Now, the vesting conditions for the BrewDog's EBT shares are as follows. exit events. That means that shares are exercisable only upon an initial public offering or IPO, or the majority sales of shares by current shareholders. Second, there's also service-based vesting, and this means that employees must meet service conditions such as continued employment with BrewDog to qualify for the share allocation. The shares are not immediately accessible to employees and are subject to the occurrence of the aforementioned exit events or service-based vesting. Now, I could go into details about existing shares and lap shares. If I come on here and I say that the situation is exactly X and or Y or whatever the situation is, it is very much the case that BrewDog could say, well, X and Y is because of A and B and Kate Bailey is a dumb bitch. And that is exactly how they want it. In refusing to answer questions, any information that I give you about all of this is actually quite risky because they could pull anything out to make it look like I've misled you. That's the benefit of not answering any questions. So I'd love to get into the weeds of it all, but I just don't think it's a good idea or productive. But let's talk about valuations. So we've heard at times that this company is worth $1 billion. We heard in 2018 that it was worth $1.8 billion. So let's look at the valuation data that BrewDog have provided in their own latest annual report using the Black-Scholes-Merton, which is the BSM pricing model. Using the weighted average share price provided by BrewDog for 2022, that yielded a value of £1.88. The value of the share option in 2023 per the same model, per their actual reporting, is 39 pence. Now, let's be clear. Adjustments, assumptions, or inputs not visible in the documents could account for these differences, and it's unclear the value of the share for the EBT or differentiations made between the three tiers of employee ownership and retail ownership. But what we can say with the numbers that are provided, the weighted average price drop per share was £1.59, which represents a loss of approximately 84.57% in value from 2022 to 2023. Now, we know employees are not receiving clear information, and we also know that retail shareholders, known as EFPs, are not receiving clear communication either. And what makes that particularly problematic is that on the 4th of June 2024, the EBT was issued a dissolution notice for failing to file accounts. It was at this time that I took this issue to Brian Simpson of Unite the Union, raising concerns for members who may be impacted if the company were to truly let the EBT dissolve and the assets to become property of the Crown. Almost immediately, Brian contacts James Arrow. I am so sorry to leave you here, but this is a complex, nuanced topic that we want to make sure we can cover as much of as we can, so I'm ending part A right here. But don't you worry, I'll be releasing part B tomorrow, and we'll be able to continue our journey through this super cooked corporate conspiracy.